All right, it is Happy Monday. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live stream. I know you guys are excited. I'm excited. I know Mr. Jingao is
Woo!
excited.
Oh,
I know Mr.
yes.
Wong is excited. I know James is excited. Yes. All right, guys. So we have a lot to talk about today. More importantly, right, the Bitcoin price is approaching like 11,000. Just last week, Mr. Wong, you and I were talking about this.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was saying is that I would like to see Bitcoin break that 10,500 mark because that was like the ceiling. And then this morning, it just blew past 10,500, like it wasn't even there. So I'm super excited. I hope you guys are super excited too. What say you, Mr. Wong?
Yeah, the entire office and the entire, VBIT, community is very, very excited about this, bull movement. So I know Jin's gonna talk a little bit about that on a technical chart point of view, but let's really hope that this is the start of another strong bull run for us.
Yeah, Bitcoin haven't done this in a while. Kind of a parabolic move. It's not 100% a parabolic move, but it's acting like it, right? Because I remember, we not talk about this also, Mr. Wong. I remember, like in 2017, when Bitcoin was moving like $1,000, $1,500 in a day, and this morning we saw Bitcoin, push up like over $500 in a matter of like minutes. I was on my phone at one point. I look at the price, and the price was like 10,003, something like that. And then I looked around again, and it was like 10,007. I'm like, when did this happen? So this is a very good sign. Now, you're right. Is it sustainable? It's hard to say. But the fact that it blew past 10,500, that's a very, very big psychological barrier. So we'll see what happens. But that's a good sign, though.
Right. We haven't had that $1,000 movement for ages, for a long time, for as long as I can remember almost. And yes, and we experienced that in the last 24 hours, right? It was at one point around 9,800, and then the shoot past 10,000, 10,000, actually almost $11,000, right? And you know what the funny thing is? Now this rally is starting to happen the last couple of days, right? Actually, yesterday and today.
Yeah.
Right, which is Saturday and Friday and Saturday. You know what happened on right before this big movement of Bitcoin?
What happened?
You announced that there's going to be a new stimulus package, or no?
All right. What about you, Jason? What do you think? What happened on a Friday, kind of like Friday and Saturday, more specifically about our company?
I don't know. Was it Don's wedding anniversary?
Here's an easy one, right, guys? If you check Telegram, Friday and Saturday, we had so many members sign up.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. We have so many people sign up on Friday and Saturday.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
So that actually, you know what it's telling me? It's like we are the ones that's driving the market.
Right? Hey, I take it. If we're the one that's driving the market, I would absolutely take it. That's beautiful.
You look at Telegram, that Friday and Saturday, we were signing up people like crazy. Right, and then that's when the prices start keep on going up, start edging up, right? And that's just the Telegram people that you've seen been signing up, right? But we also, we actually, yes. So we have done very well over the weekend, even prior to this huge surge that we have, and Gershom and the support staff has been busy. So I see, yes, we're gonna continue to be busy. If this continues and if this price sustains, right? Bitcoin we've been having that problem of sustaining above the 10,000 mark.
Yes,
right? It breaks 10,000, and a few days it dropped back down to under it. All right, so now it's approaching 11. So we'll see. I think if it does sustain, I think we'll definitely see more movement. Right, $1,000 movement a day. It's we'll see that, right? If we can stay sustain that number of 10,500 for a good period of time. Right.
Yeah, I think you're right. So my next target, if this move continues, then my next target is around 14,000. Now that sounds like a stretch, but I think that we could easily push to 14,000 and then take a breather and pull back a little bit. But I personally don't think to see 14,000 in this run. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but this little run right here, we could have enough momentum to push it to 14,000 before we pull back. But, you know, again, it's left to be seen. It's going to take a lot to push us there. But one of the things that we're seeing, Mr. Wong, and I want to hear your take on this. One of the things that we're seeing right now, and we were talking about this morning, is that a lot of the altcoins, so for a few weeks now, the altcoins were on a serious bull run. And Bitcoin was still pretty much just steady. And, you know, people say, hey, what's going on with Bitcoin? Why isn't Bitcoin moving? And we all know that, you know, look, no worries. When Bitcoin moves, it's going to move, right? And so now Bitcoin is on the move. And we see the altcoins now, they're falling back. And what I'm thinking is happening, Mr. Wong, is I'm thinking that a lot of people are taking profits from the altcoins and it's coming over into Bitcoin. Because remember, Bitcoin is always the anchor. And so a lot of people trade the altcoins. It's more like for trading. Some of them you might want to hold, but for the most part, people use altcoins to make a quick buck, so to speak, and then they push that money right into Bitcoin. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing. But I want to take you guys' take on it.
You know what, Gershom? I think you made a very good point. You are absolutely correct. You know, those altcoins were on such a crazy run. I mean, I've seen personally this particular altcoin called Chainlink. It went from maybe like $3 all the way up to, did it pass 10 at one point, Jin? I think it definitely passed 9.
No, it went up to 8 something.
Almost 9, right?
Yeah.
8 something. Almost.
Okay. And then you have Teso that went crazy. So
Jane, can you pull up that article that the King is back article, please? All right. I'm sorry, Jason. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I definitely believe that, you know, people are taking profit out of those altcoin and then you know, putting in something that we know that has a sustained history of, you know, success, which is, you know, Bitcoin in this case. So, Jen, you were going to show a chart, right?
No, just the what we were talking about, how the last few days Bitcoin is pulling up, and yet the other coins are falling actually. And one reason, you know, and actually some of the members would ask me, why are we just mining Bitcoin, all right, and not other coins? Here, this is one of the. Now you see why. Right?
Yes,
this is the main reason why
it's
our
like perfect
focus,
timing, right? Yeah,
our main focus is on Bitcoin. Right? Are there other coins? Possibly. All right, but we still see there's so much potential in Bitcoin, and just compare in terms of risk and reward, just Bitcoin is just a lot safer, right, and a lot more potential. All right. Now the altcoins, the other coins, are there more potential for appreciation? Yes, there is, but there's just so much risk in them, and there are so many of them out there, right? And what happened in the past, actually, even this year, you see the altcoins really outperforming Bitcoin for a while. Right, you had Tezos, you had Chainlink you were talking about, they're going crazy. Compound coins, so a lot of these altcoins are doing really well. And Ethereum is the second largest crypto. Even Ethereum wasn't doing as good as the other coins, the smaller coins. Right now Ethereum and Bitcoin are somewhat moving in the same direction. They're both doing really well. Yeah. Right. And that's why we're focusing more on Bitcoin. And I think one of the reasons why the altcoins are doing well and the Bitcoin is kind of like just steady. And that's the thing. Bitcoin hasn't been volatile So like you said earlier, a lot of people were trading on these other coins, so they want that volatility. Whereas Bitcoin did not gave the trader that volatility. So a lot of people were moving into the altcoin, start trading it, while Bitcoin was trading sideways. Now it is possible that there's lots of gains from these coins, from the other coins. So they took the profit, yes, and put it into Bitcoin. But that is also another, about Bitcoin, what we're talking about. Yeah. James, if you can pull up that chart for me, please. That chart we've been talking about, how about the halving, about the 3 halvings that we had, and our prediction of what Bitcoin's going to be, right? And we talked about this for a while. Bitcoin's been trading sideways pretty much since almost a year, right? Since the I think since September, August of last year. It's been a while. Been trading pretty much sideways, and so the chart, the chart that we have on over here, we talked about this a lot, right? About all those halvings that we had. Right, we had the first halving, and we're talking about what it's going to be like. James, you can move the chart. Yep, thank you. And the chart, we're talking about what is the price going to be after the halving. Actually, we talked about this several times. I brought up this chart many times, actually. And this chart actually was made middle of last year. So it's a 1-year-old chart. Right? That's kind of like talking about what the price is. And you see in this triangle, kind of like this beige, greenish triangle, saying what Bitcoin is going to be, right? It's going to be trading in the 9,900 range, actually. So the 9,000 to the 10,000 range before that, for a few months before that happened. And that's what's happening. And also you see it's going to also happen for a few months after the halving, right? We did our halving in May, right? Just actually about more than about 2 months ago, a little bit over 2 months ago. And this is where we're at. Right, so what the chart is showing, that it's going sideways until probably about maybe 2 to 6 months, and that's where you'll see breaking above that $10,000 range, right? And you'll see you look at the chart around 11, and that's why we're thinking about by the end of the year. If you look at it around 2021, it's around the $14,000 range. Okay, so this chart has been pretty much
accurate, yeah,
on what's going on. So we'll see, right? We'll see what's going to happen. So with this chart, if this chart is correct, it's saying in 2021, year 2020, after this happened, it'll be from 14,000, right? 2021 will be like 14,000 to all the way possible of 160,000. So 14,000.
So somewhere in that range.
Somewhere in that range.
Wow.
40 and 60
in the next couple of years.
Yes, I take that.
All right. And so that's what I'm saying. That's why we are more focused on mining Bitcoin. The potential of growth is still there, all right? And the risk compared to other coin is it's a lot less. All right. So the risk and reward ratio for Bitcoin is much higher than others. All right. What are your take, guys?
That's amazing. And Jin, I mean, I have also read many different analysts. They do believe that it is, we are going to see the next bull run soon. In fact, I mean, one of the analysts, I can't find the article anymore, analyzed the pricing actions that since 2017, Bitcoin has been kind of on a downward trend. However, this particular little mini breakout here just broke that downward trend. So they believe that this is a start of the next bull run cycle. I'm hoping that I can find that article and share that with the audience here. But what do you think, Gershom?
Yeah, actually, that article was the one that we just posted up earlier.
It was in there. I absolutely believe that, Jason, and that's one of the reasons why I was saying that I'm looking for 14,000 from this move. If we see 14,000 from this run, then I would feel very confident that we are actually in the next bull run. And I'm not saying that this is not it. I'm just saying it feels good right now, but I would like to see somewhere up in the 14,000 range to really feel like, yes, I think that we're on the move. And you are right. I did check out the article earlier where, for those that knows about trading, you use our trend line as an indication of what may happen. And you're right. The trend line has been downward slope. And so as a trader, what you're looking for is to see if the asset is going to break that trend line. And then Bitcoin just did that. So the trend line is going down, and we just had a candle that break that trend line like it's want to go up, and that's a good sign. Now the thing is, will it hold? That's always the thing. It's just like with the 10,000 price range, right? So many times it break above 10,000, but it never hold it. So just like this trend line, it breaks above the trend line. Now can it hold that? And if it hold that trend line and establish a new trend, then that's super positive. And that's a big range, right? Between 14,000 and 160,000. That's a really, really wide gap. And so I think 14,000 right now is really conservative. By the end of next year, I really see Bitcoin being above its last high, which was 20,000. So but then again, a lot of this is just left to be seen. We can look at the charts and we can look at prior performance and things like that. But some of the things right now is up in the air. But I do believe that there's some of the things going on right now with money printing. We're going to talk about some of that later, and stimulus and all this stuff going on. I think that the time and the movement may be condensed and it's going to be more volatile. It's going to be more robust because the last few bull markets, we didn't have all this government intervention in the markets. We didn't have all this money printing. We didn't have, the economy going into a recession. We didn't have, people. We didn't have any of this. And so I think the past performances of Bitcoin, if you look at the chart, I think the time frame going forward is going to be more condensed. So we're going to see more upswing as opposed to it being dragged out for, let's say, 6-8 months. I think we're going to see those time more shortened because of all that's going on right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I the last happened in May. That's what we were talking about, right? We were saying it's possible. Usually the two previous happens. Yeah, it took longer, right? We're thinking about 4 to 8 months for those happen. But this one. Right now, yeah, we're really just 2 months in. After 2 months, right? So yes, that because of what's going on, all that's money printing, the situations that's going on with the coronavirus, all the protests that's going on over here in the U.S. and of course in China, and the tensions between the U.S. and China. So a lot of these things are playing a factor, and it could condense the timeline where yes, it might be quicker.
Yeah.
Okay? Usually, Bitcoin price would double from for the year to happen, right? If you start around 7,000, yes, that's where we'll hit about 14,000 at the end of the year. So that 14,000 might come before the end of the year.
Yeah. So that would be sweet.
Yes.
I wanted to touch on the mining question as to why we want to mine Bitcoin. This is just me speaking personally. I don't think that we want to be a company that's chasing every little shiny objects, right? Bitcoin is the mothership of all the cryptocurrencies. And so if we just focus on the real player in the game, as opposed to trying to chase every little shiny object that pop up on the screen, then I don't think we'll be doing our customers and our clients, real service, right? There are other companies out there that's trying to mine this, trying to mine that. Most of those companies not really mining much of anything. They're more like cloud miners and things like that. So, but I think that we want to focus on what's the real player. Like, you don't hear any Wall Street firm or any of the hedge funds that's coming into the space talking about any altcoin other than Bitcoin. Why? Because they know that Bitcoin is the real cryptocurrency, right? Bitcoin is it. Now, with anything else, in our society, you're going to always have, other things that's playing off of the mother, so to speak. But when it's all said and done, I believe that we're better served for focusing on the real cryptocurrency, which is Bitcoin. Now, the altcoins, if you're a trader, you can trade those all day long, and you can make a few bucks trading those. But when you come to long-term sustainability, when you're talking about something that's going to be a true long-term value and a store of value, you're looking at Bitcoin, right? So why meddle with anything else?
Also, be careful of companies that are mining their own coins. Right? I have been approached about some companies that some of our members, friends that got involved in. They're talking about is great returns. They're mining their own coins. So be careful when you get pay in those their own company coins, or mining their own company coins. Just really seriously do your due diligence on those. Right? And when companies are promising you crazy returns and giving you their coin and making up values, that's something you really have to look into before you get into it.
Right. But before we move on, Mr. Wong, I would like to just kind of get your take on the whole us, why we want to mine Bitcoin. I just want to hear your input on the topic, if you will.
There are so many different altcoins out there. And honestly, I don't know what most of those coins are for, or I've never read those white paper, and I bet that most people who that are in the space never even bother to read the white papers of what those altcoins are for, right? So for us to, if we go in there and we start mining it without knowing what the purpose of the coin is, it's almost like just picking a stock out of the thousands of stocks that are listed and saying, "We'll just buy them, hope that it'll go up."
Yeah.
Then you might have a better chance of going taking your money to a casino. So we know what Bitcoin stands for. We understand that it's been around for over 10 years. There's a tremendous amount of followers behind it, both from the individuals and institutional. To me, it is one of the safest bet, right? When you compare to the rest of the altcoins markets. There are a few that I personally like, but majority of them I do not like, and I do not understand what they do. So that's where I'm putting my money.
Very well said, sir. Absolutely. All right. Okay, so moving right along. So we're gonna jump into our video of the day, and so today's video, I think it's funny because Mr. Wong, you and I talk about this a few times. And this is a conversation between two people that I subscribe to their podcast, Lynette Zhang and George Gammon, right? And these are macro people. They're usher in economics, super successful in the industry as far as investing and things like that. And so it's like a 45-minute interview, but we're only going to listen to 7 minutes of it towards the end. And what they're talking about in the 7 minutes is the Fed coin, right? And some of the effect that the Fed coin is going to have on us as individual and also on the overall economy. And some of the things that they talked about in this particular segment are some of the very same things that you and I talk about, Mr. Wong, the fact that the new Fed coin that's going to be coming out is going to be a coin that is going to be programmable. They can program the coin to do certain things. And a lot of times when we talk about these things, because we're in the space and get all this information, it's always good just to see that there are other people, more people that's more involved on the macro level are having taking away the same information because we're all looking at the same information, right? And so we're all coming away with our own ideas based on what we read or heard or whatever. But to see some of the things that we're talking about being confirmed by some of these people, that's well respected in the investment world, says a lot, right? So let's check it out and then we can talk about it. But just listen to some of the things that they're talking about. And a lot of it is kind of like their opinion, but these are big time investors. So, I value their opinion, what they're saying. So let's take a listen and then we'll talk about it when it's over. Whenever you're ready, James.
Is it allows them to say, well, you've got this Fed app, you've got the $2,000 of Fed bucks going to your app. You don't really need that cash. I mean, go ahead and give that to the bank, and the bank will give that to the Fed. We'll just replace the bank reserves. We can just become a cashless society. It'll be so much better, so much more efficient that way. But if you're asking yourself the question, which you probably should be, why would they do that? What's the advantage? What's the motivation for the government or the Fed to enact such a policy? Here's what I think the rationale would be behind the scenes. We know, and we talked about this off camera, that if you have debt, you like inflation, because you get to pay that debt back with a deflated currency, with inflated currency units. So you're paying the debt back with cheaper dollars, let's say.
Right, exactly.
And the government, as you know, is the biggest debtor of all time, over 26 trillion in debt right now. And that's on balance sheet. So there's no one or no entity that wants inflation more than the Fed and the government. They've obviously they come out and even admit that they're trying to
inflate
a 2% inflation rate as a target, right? So the problem, though, is before they started with these stimulus checks, it was hard for the Fed to get money into the back pocket of the consumer to where they would spend it and potentially create this inflation. Why? Because the Fed really can only print bank reserves. And that's just with the primary dealer banks, and that's a whole other conversation. But when the Fed, quote unquote, prints money, it's not... people get confused because they think that they're just injecting dollars right into the system. And it's not really the way it works. There's not a causal effect. There could be a correlation there. What happens is when they, quote unquote, print money, they're creating more bank reserves, and they're just swapping those bank reserves for assets that the primary dealers have on their balance sheet, such as mortgage-backed securities, or mortgage-backed sausages, as I like to call them.
I think that's a good description.
Yeah, you
mortgage-backed sausages.
Made, like
yeah.
But or these treasuries, taking them off the primary dealer balance sheet and putting them onto the Fed, and then these primary dealers or the banks under the Fed umbrella have more bank reserves. So then the question becomes, what do they do with the bank reserves? It does give them extra balance sheet capacity to create more loans in the real economy. If they create more loans, then yes, it is technically increasing the money supply. But the transfer mechanism there is still the commercial banking system.
Exactly.
Now, the government can come in and spend money too, but traditionally, or spend it kind of into existence if the Fed is monetizing it. But that's kind of an asset swap as well. So that kind of gets a little murky. But traditionally, the commercial banking system is really what controls the majority of the money supply and the additional money supply, or the destruction of money supply too when people are paying down debt. So my point is that the Fed really struggles with how to be proactive and have total control over the rate of inflation.
I think.
So go ahead.
I'm sorry. Well, I was going to say, I think that's why they're working so hard on central bank digital currencies. In fact, something just came from the IMF today. I haven't dug into it that far, but they're talking about giving you and me the public access to SDRs directly at the IMF or directly at the Federal Reserve, directly to the central bank, bypassing the banks.
Yeah, so exactly. So here's how I think that would play out. Whether it's an SDR, whether it's a Fed buck, a Fed coin, a dollar, whatever you want to call it, I think it goes back to the app that we were talking about. And that's the transfer mechanism that replaces the commercial banking system. So now the monetary mandarins, as Jim Grant calls them, can get that money directly into the bank accounts of the people and circumnavigate the banking system. But then the question becomes velocity, Lynn. Or
Yes.
how do you get up that velocity, right? Because how do you know people aren't just going to take the money and save it? Remember, they tried this experiment in Japan, and the Japanese didn't spend the money, they saved it. So
well, that
they
just happened with all those stimulus checks where we saw personal savings rate jump to 33%. So all those $1,200 and $2,400, they either opened an account at Robinhood, and which was really interesting. I don't know if you heard that or not, but they opened, I don't know, millions.
They bought bankrupt companies, right?
Right, but all the new accounts, or most of the new accounts that were opened, were either $1,200 or $2,400 new accounts. So,
of course.
right. So people either put it into their savings account or they went into the market to play with it, and they didn't really go out shopping.
Right. So here's where I think that could change. And going back to the Fed app is, let's just say the Fed or the Treasury say, what we need is additional velocity. Okay, how can we do that? Let's give them $2,000, but since we can control how they spend it, because now it's on an app that the government controls, we can program those Fed bucks to disappear if they're not spent within, let's say, 30 days. So now, and you can't buy stocks with it. Remember, they could control that because it's a digital currency that's basically code. So they could say, they could limit to where you actually spend the money, so you'd have to spend it on consumer goods and consumption, because they're all Keynesians. They think that boosts the economy. And then if they didn't get velocity up to where they wanted, or if inflation doesn't get to where they want, they could just lower the time frame from 30 days to 15 days. And if they don't get that, they bring it down to 5 days. And then if it's still not there, they could go from giving you $2,000 to $5,000. And this may sound fantastic to a lot of people that are watching this podcast or this show, but you have to realize there is no free lunch. And while there are some people that it's very true, that would increase their purchasing power substantially, it would be decreasing the purchasing power of all the savers in the United States, all the retirees, anyone that's on a fixed income. It would be a transfer of wealth from those savers to the consumers. There's no free lunch. On aggregate total, the spending and the purchasing power is going to be the same. It's just a matter of who has that purchasing power and who is losing the purchasing power.
Really, really good point. And this time has just flown by. I wish we could do this all over again, because there's so I wish we could do this
all right.
all over again.
Okay, guys. So I hope you guys got lots from that video, and a couple of things real quick. And I was thinking about this the other day about the inflation, because the government have an inflation target. Can you imagine that our government wants inflation, right? So that's why they keep devaluing the money. But when they so-called print up all this money and inject it in the economy, they didn't get the inflation that they want. And I think the reason for that is because we had the COVID lockdown, so the money velocity wasn't there, right? Money velocity means how fast is the money moving through the economy. If I get it, I go to Mr. Jingao and I buy something from Mr. Jingao. He takes that and goes to Mr. Wang and buys something from him and Mr. Wang. And so how fast is that money circulating in the economy? That's how you measure the money velocity. So when the money velocity slows down, you cannot get inflation, right? So and also they're targeting 2%. And I believe that the inflation is going to get away from them. They think that they can control it. They think they can get it to 2% and keep it there. I don't think they can do it. I think that at some point the inflation will get away from them. That's not a conversation. But all the money that they're printing up, they cannot get their 2%, right? So how are they going to get the money velocity? And Mr. Wang, you and I talked about this. One of the ways that they're going to do it is with this new government digital money that they're coming out with. It's going to be programmable. So in other words, they can have expiration dates on it. So they may give you $1,200, this new digital currency, right? Let's say they go to universal basic income. You can get the money in your account, in your app or whatever, but you're going to have a certain time to spend that money. And if you don't spend it in 30 days, you're going to lose the value of the money. And actually, they could make your money expire. So they're going to force you to spend the money because they need that money velocity. So rather than you getting it and putting it into your bank account or putting it in a trading app to go trade, they're going to force you to spend the money because they need that velocity. And if you don't spend it, they're going to slowly allow it to expire. And so we talk about this, Mr. Wong, and also what they can do also is make it to where you can only spend that money on a certain things. So you won't be able to put it in a trading account because they will control it. They will control exactly what you do with the money because they can actually program that money.
Yeah, we spoke at length about this, particularly actually China is already implementing it and experimenting it in several of its, large metropolitan cities. And how about this? They went even a step further. You know how during the lockdown in China, right? They really wanted to control how people go, stay home and go out. And so what they did with their experimental digital yuan was that they would limit, on only certain days of your digital wallet can be used.
What?
So for example, if they really want to limit, people from going out, right, to go to the market and whatnot, they would limit as to when your money can be spent during the week, what day of the week that you can spend.
Listen, that is.
I mean,
wow.
That is a hardcore control, right? I mean, it will be very different. If we start implementing something like that over here in this country. I think a lot of people would feel very uneasy about it, but that's what happened actually in China, and they were able to effectively control people from going out.
so a couple of things, that's kind of scary. Well, first of all, it's just to make you think about how advanced this blockchain and this cryptocurrency can be and is. Right? And that's why Bitcoin is really changing how people do business, changing how the financial industry is handling payment and currency. And that's kind of scary what the Fed is trying to do. If that does happen, how the Fed, how do you like it? How do you like it for them to have that much control on your money?
That's
all right. You have to spend it at a certain time, and you have to spend it in a certain place. And that's why all these centralized currency, Fed currency, digital dollars, it's no competition with Bitcoin. And actually, that's what's going to make Bitcoin even more popular. All right. So Bitcoin is the currency of the people, right? And then you have these other currencies that are controlled. Right? These digitalized fiat currency. That's what they are. And actually, they have more control. And another scary thought is, individual, from your parents, from your family, we're talking about individual wealth, about saving money, study hard, work hard, and save money. But that's not what the government wants us to do.
They don't want you to save. They do not want you to save.
Our government is contradicting of
what you were taught when you were growing up, right?
Individual wealth. All right, not about saving for retirement or saving money for your business. But we are taught by the government and encouraged by the government to go out and spend more money, right, to make our country better, to make the economy better, right, which makes sense. Right? But individual wealth, how are we going to accumulate the wealth? Right? Not by spending.
Right? I mean, I think you're right. Yes, as citizens, we need to, be involved in the economy. That's how the economy works. But we should have the freedom how we interact with the economy, right? We shouldn't have where the government literally controls our money and then dictate to us how we spend it, where we spend it, in what time frame we should spend it, on what day we can spend it. No. As citizens, we need to be left alone, and we need to decide for our own selves how we want to spend our own money. Because if you cannot control your money, then you have lost all your freedom. And I caution people, and I've been saying this for a long time, Mr. Wong, you never had these conversations. It's like, be careful what you wish for. I know that a lot of people want this new digital dollar that's coming out because they feel like it's going to be more convenient. And I hear people talk about how cash is dirty. And I get all that. I get the argument for cash. Cash carry disease and all that stuff. I get that. But if you think that the government digital money is going to be here to benefit you, government doesn't do anything to benefit you. Everything that government does is to benefit them. And so they will be in total control of the money once it goes digital. And there's so many things that can go wrong with that. But then again, that's why I'm glad we have someone like Bitcoin, because it is completely decentralized and it gives us the option to opt out of the system. Now, we still have to be in the system and interact with whatever system that they put in place, right? But just knowing that we have this other thing over here that we can opt out and we can get back in whenever we want to, we have more control over that. And I believe that right now, Bitcoin mining is very, very important. But as days goes on, when people realize the importance of having a decentralized free money, I think Bitcoin mining is going to be more important, because at some point, you won't be able to purchase Bitcoin, right? But if you are mining Bitcoin, you're always going to be having Bitcoin because you're mining Bitcoin every day, right? So I am so happy that we have this service to offer to people. And so, if you're not a part of what we're doing yet, you really need to start thinking about it, because you, at the very least, give yourself a chance not to be trapped in a system where you have no options and you have no control over your own money.
Right. And with what you said earlier about cash, that's dirty, right? A couple of things. Physically, yes, right. That's why actually there's so many. There's a shortage in coins.
Yes, there is.
Right? People don't want to use cash, so there's shortage in coins. And I just saw an article where Chick-fil-A actually offer free meal if you exchange coins with them. Right. So that's one thing, is because of course this pandemic going on. But that's the physical sense of dirty cash. But the other part of dirty cash is actually criminal activities, drugs.
Yeah.
Right. Any type of criminal activities. You use cash, it cannot be traced. When Bitcoin first started, a lot of people were saying Bitcoin, you use Bitcoin in the dark net. You use all these criminal activities. People use them for money laundering. People use them for drug trafficking. It's totally opposite. The opposite is true. When you use Bitcoin, it can be traced. Mm-hmm. Right now, if you're using the Fed dollar, the digital dollar, if you do go cashless, actually, that will help that industry in terms of there won't be any cash. That's you can trace where all those that's Fed dollars go, right? So no, you can't use that for drug trafficking.
I think they'll also kill the black market.
Yes,
right, because the black market, for the most part, is a cash system. So if we go cashless, that's going to have a serious, I think, a negative impact on the black market.
Right, which is the good thing. That goes just to show. And right now, it's good. Not many people talked about that. How people are using Bitcoin for illegal activities, and it's a total myth that people use Bitcoin for illegal activities.
It's a complete myth, and it's just people just misunderstand, if you will, the use of Bitcoin. But I, for one, I'm not enthusiastic about the new Fed coin that's coming out, or the new US digital dollar that's coming out, because I know that doesn't matter how they design it, how they frame it, I know that that's going to erode my freedom and my liberty. So I'm not excited about it. And, we'll see what happens. I'm totally committed to giving myself a chance to not get totally, completely trapped in that system. And the only way I see to do that for myself is to be, involved with Bitcoin. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right, so moving right along. Guess what, Mr. Wong? We have another stimulus package on the way, $1 trillion. I mean, these
more money.
These guys just, I mean, like, listen, they did say there's no limit to what we will do. I mean,
that's right.
I never thought in all my years that I would literally hear a Fed chairman go on national television and look dead in the camera and said, there is no limit as to how much money we'll print, right? And so they're showing us right now, there is no limit. So they have another stimulus package coming out. It's not finalized yet, I don't think. But there's some things that's going to be in the stimulus package. I think they're going to give another $1,200 to everyone. I think one of the things that they're talking about, you know how everyone is getting this extra $600 a week for the unemployment? They were talking about doing away with that completely, but I think they compromised to they're going to cut it down to $200 as opposed to $600. And one of the reasons for that is because there are so many people that they were making more money on unemployment or not going back to work than they were making when they were working. And so people were disincentivized to go back to work. And so they say, look, we can't just give people this money because we need people back in the economy. So they're going to cut it down to 200. One of the things that I know that we're talking about, I'm not sure it's going to make it in this bill, is reduce the qualification limit. So you know how the first stimulus package, if you made $75,000 or less, you will get that $1,200. But I think they're going to reduce that to $40,000. So if you make anything over $40,000, you may not get that. So there are some things that they're playing around. I don't think this bill has been finalized yet, but we do know that, yes, they are coming up with another stimulus bill, and it's going to be about $1 trillion or so. But where does this end? I mean, like, how much trillions can they just print out of thin air, Mr. Wong?
you know, as I remember back in 2008, you know, when I first heard about that $700 billion package, I almost fell off my chair. I mean, that is such a huge number.
No, that's nothing. $700 billion.
You know, right? You know, fast forward 10 years, that's like a drop in the bucket now.
It is.
You know, we don't talk about anything unless it is in the T, like in the trillion with a T, capital T. That's ridiculous.
I feel like I'm in the twilight zone. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I mean, it's beyond my imaginations. But I think, you know, our economy definitely need, you know, more assistance. A lot of people are still struggling to find a job. But I totally agree with you, with the lawmakers that they have to make it, you know, worthwhile for people to go back to work, right? They can't be sitting at home and making more money compared to, you know, going to work, the actual work. So I'm glad that they take away with that $600. In my opinion, it's because too many people had expressed to me, small business owner, that they're having issue finding workers because people are making more money sitting at home.
All right.
So.
Yeah. And the $1,200 stimulus check. And which actually most of us won't get it. You know, if the limit is 40,000 or below, then most of our viewers and most of our clients are pretty, or at least to do. Right? That makes sense because, like the other interviewer was saying, most people actually over 30% of the people actually save their money, right? So it's usually the lower income people that are not able to save. They simply just don't have it. So I agree if it cuts down to a lower limit, right, to a lower income, to get that, and to get to reduce from 600 to 200. Yeah, that's also good. Yes, and we're injecting another $1 trillion into the market. what do you say? Do we like it? Is it necessary? It's a necessary evil, I guess. We with this situation that's going on, we have to. I don't see any way that, especially in an election year.
Oh yeah, in an election year for sure they're gonna go all out. So I think before it's all said and done, we're gonna see the Fed blew up their balance sheet to about 10 trillion. But
trillion.
Yeah, I see 10 trillion. They're gonna blow up to 10 trillion because it doesn't mean anything anymore. Like 10 trillion, 20 trillion, it doesn't matter, right? If they can just a trillion here, a trillion there, right now it doesn't really matter. But here's what I think. And that's actually most of that money is really going to the Wall Street bankers and the big corporations. That's not a conversation. But here's what I think. I'm gonna take a different take on this. So I know, and I've been saying this before, and people think I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm really not. But I think the coronavirus is just it's a very convenient excuse for what they're doing.
By the way, Bitcoin's at 11,405.
Whoa, this thing is.
What is going on?
Whatever it is, I love it.
Oh my goodness!
Keep it going. Let's keep it going. But I think what we have to understand and not get complacent is that we have serious problems. And I think a lot of people are going to lose sight of that because they hear a stimulus here and a stimulus there, $1,200 here, $600 there, and that's all they focus on, free money. But just like George Gammon said, there is no such thing as a free lunch. Mm-hmm. But why is all this happening? Yes, I know they're telling you coronavirus. I think that's hogwash. This system was broken, and they're trying their very best to keep it together, but it's not going to work. For example, I don't think many people even heard about this, but the repo market blew up back in September of last year. And many of us will say, uh-oh, here we go. And if you don't know what the repo market is, the repo market is basically every single night, the banks have to close out their books. And if they're short cash, what they do is they borrow from each other to make sure that the books are good for the day. So Bank A will borrow from Bank B, and then they will pay a very small interest, maybe like 1.25%. It's called a LIBOR, right? And so Bank A would borrow from Bank B, whatever they need. Bank B would hold their asset, lend them some money overnight, get it back the next day. And the rate for that loan every night was like 1.25%. In September, the rate for the repo market went from 1.25% to 10% overnight. And that's when we knew something was up in the banking system. And the Fed started pumping in $60 billion a night. That's where they started. And we knew that something was up. And then all of a sudden, coronavirus got to start printing money. And that's why I've been saying the coronavirus is a very easy, convenient. Now, as I said, I'm not saying the coronavirus is not real and it's here, but it's too convenient where all of a sudden, we knew the banking system blew up. We knew some bank, they wouldn't say which bank. Was it a hedge fund? Was it a big bank? Was it Deutsche Bank that's in big trouble in Germany? No one knew because they wouldn't say, but we all knew something happened when the rate went from 1.25% to 10% overnight. And then a few months later, here comes coronavirus, here comes printing all this money and all that stuff. Something isn't right. Something is not right. And we're going to find out eventually. But in my mind, something isn't right. And all of this is an excuse for something else. But time will tell.
Yep.
Time will tell. That's my rant for the day.
That is a pretty deep state conspiracy.
I know it is. But something isn't right, guys. I'm telling you right now. It's not just a typical coronavirus. We got to shut the economy down. Here's $1,200. There's something is going on, and it's not good. But we'll see. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Mr. Wong, any last words for the folks out there, sir? Bitcoin just hit, bless you, 11,400. What say you, Mr. Wong?
Hey, you know what? Hold on to the Bitcoins that you mine, guys. As I always say, all right? I am not a trader when it comes to Bitcoin. I like to mine and hold, because I see this thing going to, significantly higher, all right? I have seen estimate that goes from, as high as 250,000 to, I think Jen, you guys at the beginning of the show, we were reading out like $15,000, but whatever that range is, I'll tell you, I want to hold on to every little bit of Bitcoins that I have, just not ready to sell yet.
Yep. The range is 14,000 to 160 in the next couple of years.
Goodness. And
wow.
Jen, I read this morning 288,000.
Whoa.
So,
I like it.
Now, that's why I encourage our members to not use our Bitcoin to pay for the monthly dues.
Yeah.
So yes, keep your Bitcoin, save them up.
Right.
All right.
If Bitcoin doesn't hit, I won't even think about selling my Bitcoin under 20,000. I'm not saying that I would sell at 20,000, but I wouldn't even think about selling under 20,000. No, nothing. My sell point is like 50, 60,000. I may sell some, but besides that, I'm not even thinking about it. I know Mr. Wong is going to hold on to like a million.
Mm-hmm. $1 million Bitcoin.
$1 million Bitcoins.
$1 million in Bitcoin.
All right, guys. So we're going to wrap it up today. It was a wonderful show. Always enjoyed these live stream. It's excitement right now. Bitcoin is at 11,400. This is exciting for us because, Bitcoin has been going sideways for so long, between 9,000 and 10,000. And then for a long time, it was like between 9,000 and 9,300. Mm-hmm. And so to see this breakout that we've all been waiting for is very refreshing and it's very exciting. And I'm thinking that, my next stop for Bitcoin, if this is real, is around 14,000 before we see any kind of pullback. But we'll see. So, guys, don't forget, hold on to your Bitcoin. This is why we're in this business, okay? This is why we're in this business, okay? So don't get rid of your Bitcoin. All right, guys? So join me tonight, 9 p.m. for a compensation webinar as always. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Don't forget 7:30 for our training for our members and also for a presentation for any guests that you may have.
Right.
All right.
Also, tell your team, actually, we're going to have our CEO, Don Vo, on tomorrow.
Awesome.
Right?
Yes.
So he's going to be doing some training
It's
tomorrow.
always good to hear from our CEO.
Awesome.
Nice. That's awesome. Great. All right, guys. Go enjoy the rest of your afternoon. We always love to see you guys here. It's beautiful. You guys take care of yourselves. And I will see most of you guys tonight at 9 p.m. And the rest of you will see you guys tomorrow at 7:30, okay? Have a good night.